Show. Welcome to Bhavika's Chat Show. This is your host, Bhavika Kocher. I speak to interesting personalities from different domains like customer success, product management, entrepreneurship, and much more. So let's get started. Hey everyone, welcome to the third episode of Bhavika's Chat Show. Today we have a very special guest, and of course, he's a very close friend as well. He's none other than Jeremy Donaldson. He works as a team lead of customer success at Totango. Hey Jeremy, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing well. It's so good. It feels like I'm catching up with an old friend after these last couple of years. It's good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you too. And thank you for accepting the request to be on the show. I think we're going to love this episode for sure because it'll be all around transitioning into customer success. And trust me, Jeremy, a lot of people these days, they really want to come to CS domain from different domains like sales,
Mhm.
product management. So your insights on this topic would be very useful for the people out there.
Yeah, I'm happy to share my story. And my goal is if one person walks away with something that's
Yes.
actionable that they can take, then that's in my opinion a success. So I'm really glad to be able to find the time to have this conversation.
Amazing. Amazing, Jeremy. So let's get started with this. First of all, we would love to know more about your journey since you transitioned from HR, I think, to customer success. So how was your journey? What kind of challenges did you face, and how did you reach here at Totango as a team lead of customer success? We would love to know that.
Yeah, I would say that saying yes to a lot of opportunities that came along my way. But yeah,
Yeah.
so roll the clock back. Coming up on this year, this July will be a decade when I started in HR. That I just took the kind of first opportunity that I had to get into the professional world. Customer success wasn't even on my radar,
Okay.
but I had the opportunity to join and do talent acquisition, and just through that, just got to learn how to interact and work with people, right? Help them understand what's important to them, what are they trying to
Correct.
get out of their careers, and just use that passion to help people get to where they want to be, and aligning that with hiring managers. So I think there's a lot of, especially if you are in HR and considering a change, there's a lot of I think unique skills that talent acquisition professionals have that transition. So for me, it was just, I stayed close. I knew a lot of hiring managers. You become
Yes.
friends with just about
Yes.
everybody in the business when you're in talent acquisition.
True.
So through that, it just, an opportunity presented itself to go to our business side, which
Right.
we call back then would have been renewals manager. And
Okay.
it was just working with customers on more commercial aspect type things. But it was great exposure in the conversation, the art of the conversation of understanding what's value for the customer. And
Right.
I initially thought like, oh, we're just renewing contracts, but it ended up being so much more than that. And so it
Yeah.
was kind of that role sprung me into kind of we'll call it the customer success 1.0, the account manager
Yeah.
type function, and did that with small customers. And then just through that, had the opportunity to move up to larger accounts. And then
Okay.
was able to make that true pivot into customer success back probably what was it, end of 2017 into 2018,
Okay.
where the function of customer success is we really know it today, right? That driving
Right.
the value, creating deep relationships and champions of your product, understanding what's really important to the customer, right? That's really kind
Right.
of where the catalyst happens. So yeah, anybody who's thinking about a transition, and right, HR I would say is not one that I hear as often, right?
Yeah.
Education,
Yeah.
teachers is a big one.
Yes. Yes.
Nursing professionals is another one that I hear a lot. But
Yeah.
if you're considering a transition from HR, I actually think there's a lot of skills that are very valuable because you're already working with customers, you're already
True.
aligning needs between multiple sets of groups, right? You're
Right.
reporting to multiple different people. So
True.
yeah, and how I got here was, candidly, it was just getting close to people and using my own internal networks.
Yeah.
So as opportunities presented itself, it was less of me having to raise my hand for it, and more of people knew that I had already shown the skills to be able to take that on, and people kind of lifting me up into those roles.
Amazing, amazing. Then and you mentioned a very nice point, Jeremy, around networking because that's where I think the key factor revolves if you have your networks in place, if you have great connections out there, and of course we have a wonderful CS community out there who's always giving in nature. If you make use of your networks, your connections, I think it'll be very easy to transition from one role to another. Of course,
Mhm.
there'll be some other things that'll be involved, your skills, what kind of hard work you've put in, what kind of learning and growth do you have. But yes, a great network or a great connection resource can definitely help you in the long run.
Yeah, absolutely.
Amazing. Okay, Jeremy. So I'll go ahead with the next round, which is called the rapid fire round. I'm very sorry, I do not have any chocolate hampers for you, but the day I visit US, I'll definitely get one for Chloe, of course, and the other kids, and you for sure.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Amazing. Okay, let's go ahead with the first question under rapid fire round. So, what are some best practices for building a resume for someone who's coming from a different domain altogether? Any best practices around the resume itself?
Yeah, so I gave this a little bit of thought when you sent this over, and I think for me it's before I would even jump into any major overhauling of a resume. I think you and I were just talking about this a little bit earlier. Is
Yeah.
doing the research, right?
Yes.
Picking companies, picking leaders, picking even specific roles, right, that
Correct.
you want, and doing really deep dive research on what that looks like, and then figuring out what those problems that they solve. I think a lot of times that what I see a lot of people do is they kind of take what I call the spray and pray approach, which is I go to a job board, I pick
Yeah.
50 applications, I take my resume and I apply, but
Yeah.
don't take the steps to do the research on the company first,
True.
or look at who you know in your
True.
network to start those conversations before applying. And so
True.
actually, I would spend less time on making your resume perfect and spend
Okay.
more time on
On the
actually
research.
looking at who you know in that, and then
True.
as you network you'll be able to figure out what your resume needs to look like from those conversations, right? You can tweak it, you
Correct.
can focus it on those business problems that you're solving and the value that you're adding ultimately, right? It's good to be if you're a salesperson and you're over quota, it's good to say that, but at the end of the day,
Correct.
how did you being over quota add value, right, to those customers
True.
that you're working with? That's the most important piece.
True, true, true. I agree. I agree, Jeremy, because around this, I think I also posted a while ago over LinkedIn, and I mentioned this that whenever you go out for searching a job, it's very important to research about the market, research about the job, the company, the role. So if you do not have your points on the table, the research around all these things, of course you can get lost, right? At a later stage. So first you need to do your homework with respect to all this research, and once all this is done, then of course you can start building the resume. And of course there are many other people, many other tools also which can help you with building resumes as well, so that
Mhm.
that should not take much time.
Yeah,
Amazing.
and I would say ask
Yeah.
somebody, ask for help,
Ask
right?
somebody.
Even if you can't
Yes.
pay for a service,
Yeah.
find somebody you trust,
Yeah.
especially who's has good grammar and punctuation, can
Yes.
read through that.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
take the time. That's certainly something that's helped me in my career, and
Yeah.
you need to take the first kind of pass at it, but having
True.
those people in your corner helps out a
True.
lot too.
True. I agree. I definitely agree there with you. Cool. So, Jeremy, let's go ahead with the second question. When transitioning from multiple career paths, how can people convince their interviewer if they found their sweet spot? Because, of course, the interviewer might ask such a question that you're transitioning from domain A to domain B, and tomorrow you might want to transition from B to C. So, how do you know
Mhm,
that now this is where you would really want to be, and this is your sweet
mhm.
spot? Yeah.
Yeah, this is interviewing is super hard, super
Yes.
competitive. I think
Yes.
for me, when I think about that question of how do you show the value or show that you're for real, in
Right.
my 90s child showing using the for real, but
Right.
the one that I think for me when I think about that question, it comes down to understanding kind of what I like to ask in interviews is what's your why, right? I'm as an
Amazing.
interviewer and a hiring manager less
Yeah.
concerned about you making multiple pivots, right? You did project management, you did
Right.
sales development, right? You did HR, you were in technical support. I think it's less about that, and it's more of how did that though doing those roles help you get to what you are passionate about. And for me, I want to understand you as the person behind the
Yes.
questions that you're asking, behind the answers, right? What motivates you? What's your passion?
Right.
Actually, example of somebody that I networked with probably 2 or 3 months ago, and
Okay.
it was a great conversation. And she shared, I asked her, I said, where do you want to be, right? What's your passion about? And
Yeah.
she shared with me for almost 15 minutes about her background of wanting to be in the ed tech space, right? And wanting to
Wow.
help customers, and they use learning to enable their workforce. And for me, that told me everything that I needed to know, right? It told me who
Right.
I could connect her with, right? Even though I didn't have a role for her, it helped me understand, right? If I could put this person in any job tomorrow, that's what it would be.
Yes.
And so I think for me, it's, you're going to do your greatest convincing to an interviewer if you spend more time on showing how those roles and they are going to
Okay.
enable you to be successful in your passion than trying to justify why you took a pivot in your career, right? Create a
Correct.
story that ties all of those things together, as opposed to trying to justify what your past looks like. You don't need to justify your past. Your past is what it is,
Definitely.
but you
Definitely.
can use your past to enable your future.
Definitely. Amazing. Amazing there, Jeremy. And I think in life also that holds true. What's gone is gone, but what's there in this current moment with you is you have the power on. And of course, you can create a wonderful future if you
Mhm.
make it of the best use. So thank you so much, Jeremy, for giving us those insights. Moving ahead with the third question, should people change career paths according to their love for that career? Or should they consider things such as salary hikes or market hype? Like, what kind of motivation should actually a person should have when he's thinking of changing from one domain to another?
Yeah, I think this is gonna sound cliche, right? But
Yeah.
for me, it's I've heard this over and over again, and I've lived through, experiences where this has been very true and where it's not. But
Yeah.
whenever you're considering a career change, right,
Mm.
understanding what's driving that change, and then in my opinion, find somebody that you look up to, right? Find a leader who's going to enable you to be great, regardless of the role. There are
Yeah.
people who are
Correct.
not in the roles that they want to be in, but work for people who
Yes.
they truly believe is the
Believe in.
great possible leader, and get more out of them in a role that maybe not be 100% aligned to their passion, just because they work for people who genuinely care. So my opinion, right? If you are in a position in your life where
Hmm.
salary does not have to be the biggest factor, I would, just pick
Focus.
things that, right, pick things that pick company that you're gonna be passionate about, pick an industry you want to be in, pick a role that you want to be in. Importantly, work for somebody who's going to care for you
Yeah.
and is
Of
going to
course.
want to enable your success, more than
Yes.
anything else. If you're not in a position where, salary has to be the most important thing,
Yeah.
then yeah, I'm not going to downplay it, right? You got to pay for, you got to put food on your table, you got to pay for your bills that you have. But
Yeah.
if you can, and where possible, right, pick a leader over your salary
Yeah.
100% of the time. I don't think you should have to sacrifice one
Yeah.
or the other.
Correct.
But if you're not working for a leader that you're passionate about, that's where I would start, right? Find somebody you respect, and
Yes.
talk to them first, right? They may not be able to hire you, but usually great leaders know how to
Yeah.
identify other great leaders that can help
Yes.
put, again, coming back to that networking piece. So it's a tough
Yeah.
question to answer, candidly, because I can't tell you, right,
Yeah.
put salary aside, because
Of
maybe
course.
that's the only thing keeping food on your table right now. So,
Correct. Correct.
but where you can, pick a leader.
Correct. I think it depends, Jeremy, like you just mentioned, that if you feel like that salary is not such a big criteria, then of course go ahead with the organization's vision, the leader that you'll be working with, because those are the things that can actually help you learn more in your career, right? So I think I agree with you there. And in my career trajectory also, Jeremy, trust me, where I thought that okay, salary is not such a big important factor here. I looked upon things like how much would I be able to learn here, how would my growth look like, because that's
Mhm.
how that is what will play the major role in the longer run. And
Yeah.
salary, of course, what I believe, Jeremy, if you have the right skills, if you have the right learning attitude, uh, money would come for sure today or tomorrow. It's just about being
Mhm.
on the right path and learning something or the other.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a great feedback.
Awesome. Let's go ahead with the last question. Can you name some transferable skills which can help one change careers?
Yeah, so for customer success, I think it's interesting, right? We talk about how CSMs focus on
Yes.
driving value for your customers, right? Identifying
Yes.
their outcomes and then driving a journey that's going to help them get there. I
Yes.
think if I really sat down and mapped out every role of every person I've ever talked to, there's always something, right? Project managers
Definitely.
looking to come over, being able to manage things to timeframes. And I love project management is probably the one thing that I think about a lot is the ability to work backwards,
True.
right? Taking the end in mind and
Yes.
creating a journey backwards to the start. So, right, if you're a
True.
project manager is thinking about that, right, you've got already got, I think, in my opinion, a great skill set. Consult if you're in kind of that consulting realm, right? You're already thinking with that strategic mindset, right? And can
Correct.
naturally, right? If again, CS is different for every organization, so I'll
Yes.
caveat that,
Yes.
but true CSMs, right, having that strategic mindset of enabling customers is there. I
Right.
think if you're in any role that you're doing, right, I was in talent acquisition before I came over here, and I think the things that I would be, as I'm engaging with customers, right,
Hmm.
is aiming for good, not for perfection, meaning like having the ability to speak with confidence, even if you don't know the answer. That doesn't mean that you make something up, but
Yeah.
you enable the customer to say, "Hey, you know what, I don't know the answer to that, but here's my plan of how to find that out for you," and outlining what that looks like. I think also, right, being able to connect, and especially in this day and age, right, we're still in
Yes.
COVID, as you shared earlier, right? There's,
Yes.
so parts of the world are, still going through lockdowns, right? And being able to
Yes.
talk with empathy with those people is
True.
is huge, right? I think another skill set we don't talk about a lot is, CSMs deal with a lot of delivering a lot of bad news, right? We're not going to do that enhancement request, or we don't
Correct.
have the resources to pull that on,
Correct.
or what, that bug fix is going to take a long time to to address, and
True.
having the ability to deliver that bad news in a way that gently lets the customer down, but then also enables the conversation to
Right.
say, hey, let's investigate maybe how we can work around this. I think that's what it's looked like. But anyway, whatever skill set you're looking at, whether it's empathy, whether it's confidence, whether you're taking a project management skill,
Right.
regardless of what it is, take that skill and step out of yourself and look at what you
Right.
have from a third person perspective. Or better yet, if you have people
Yeah.
are willing to give that very candid feedback, ask those people about those skills in your life and get them to say, hey, this is where you could articulate this better, here's where you can improve. That's what's going to help move the needle. Isn't necessarily your perspective on those skills, but
True.
what do those around you and how much do they value those skills when you enter the conversation.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you so much, Jeremy. And with this, of course, we've come to the end of rapid fire round as well. Coming to the next round, where I'll be asking you three Ws, which is the three W questions. With the first question, your favorite CS book and why?
Yeah, great question. Well, it's always the next one, right? So we're always supposed to be learning. I'll just share the one that I'm actually working on. I'm actually
Okay.
reading through right now. It's the Farm Not Hunt by
Okay.
Guy, and it's actually it's really, I think, in my opinion, it's probably one of the simplest breakdowns of
Okay.
customer success, right? It's not overcomplicating it. It uses a lot of analogies to explain what we do, how customer success and functions, right? It's one of the earlier books in CS to have come out. So for
I see.
me right now, I love it. And I'm going to talk about this here in a minute, right around, I think CS, there's a lot of things that, as the journey, elongates, right? It's going to add
Yes.
complexity, but I also think that we need things like this to help remind
Yes.
people customer success at its core actually can be really simple, right?
Simple.
When you're starting out, it can be really simple and driving that value. But from here, right, I was actually, and I will share this with you after, but I actually got a list of somebody published kind of a top 10 books.
Yeah.
And there's actually a couple new ones that are on there that I hadn't seen before, right?
Okay.
Everybody talks about onboarding matters or the seven pillars of
Yes.
CS by Wayne, right?
Yes.
Those are books that I'm either working through or on my list to read this year. But there's actually
Mm.
some new ones, right? There was one that was like CS for startups, right? And how to
Yes.
build a CS that. So for me, like, I want to check that one out because I work with a lot of customers who are in their infancy of CS, and might have things that I'm not coming from a startup world might be able to lend and offer that perspective.
Amazing, amazing. I think I also need to get this book. I'll order this right away this night so that I get this book soon. I'm looking forward to reading, and of course, reading helps you give you more perspectives also, Jeremy, because you read a lot, and then you'll be able to understand. Okay, that's what that person must have thought. Okay, that's what the person has written about. And when you read a lot, your mind opens towards many things. And of course, this book, I am definitely gonna get it for sure.
Awesome.
Amazing. Next question. What do you think CS will look like in 2022? Of course, this is a very important question that's been asked everywhere, and I really want you to know that what's your opinion like on this?
Yeah, there was two things that immediately jumped to mind. One that we're already seeing, and one that I've kind of referenced a couple times throughout our
Yeah.
conversation, and that is community-led CS. Right, we're already seeing it with
Yes.
Gainsight's acquisition of Insighted.
Yeah.
I think you're going to see that more and more as you go forward. Right, customer success organizations having to do more with even less resources, and
Mhm.
doing that community-led approach is definitely going to be one of those things where getting your customers to engage with other customers or even prospects, right, and in
Correct.
how they're driving value. I've been involved with, I know most people are at this point are aware of Gain, Grow, Retain, but
Yeah.
that's to me like is kind of the one of the earlier coming out of COVID, like
Yeah.
it's truly CS community, right? The Gain, Grow, Retain's customers are CS professionals and connecting CS
True.
professionals, and
Yeah.
really like we as those kind of holding the house together, really we are CS experts, but it's really
Yes.
about getting people to talk to each other within that community. So that's kind of the one thing we're already seeing consolidation to some degree in that. And then the other piece of it is we need to create a lower barrier of entry for
Okay.
people trying to break into CS. I think
Amazing.
this is maybe a little bit bold, but I don't think
Yeah.
customer success in its truest form is necessarily an entry level role. I think
Right.
it's really hard to get into CS as a truly entry level person.
Yes.
You have to have some experience somewhere
Of course.
doing something. But I think for us to drive forward and get that next generation of talent, right? There's a lot of people who don't have the deep CS skill sets that are super passionate and super hungry, right? Sales
Yes.
development has done
Yes.
this super well and driving
Yeah.
that kind of early engine. And so I think we as CSMs and CS leaders have to figure out a way to create that same kind of engine, right? Of developing people who are not super senior in the space period, but can create advocates, right? You get those people earlier in their career, you create lifelong advocates for CS
Correct.
by doing that. And so that for me is the other piece of like, how do we make it easier for people to get into CS and adopt CS
Correct.
regardless of your experience?
Amazing, amazing. And with this only, Jeremy, the next question is linked that, of course, you have given wonderful advices throughout the episode, what a newbie can do out there. But one advice, one specific advice that you'd like to give to someone who is just breaking into CS, and maybe that one advice of yours can change someone's future out there.
I'm actually going to borrow this from Gary V. If you know who
Okay.
Gary V is, he actually
Yeah.
I saw
Yeah.
a video a couple 2-3 months ago, and
Mhm.
he wasn't talking about customer success at all, but he was talking about learning something new. And he
Right.
said his mantra was spend 40 hours on doing research and learning, right? You and do all of it through as many free resources as possible, right? Go to events,
True.
attend webinars, read blogs, follow influencers. And he said, after those 40 hours, then take what you've learned and apply, right? Apply through networking with people, apply through, can you take those skills back into your current job, right? And can you
Correct.
build on that experience? But I love that approach of starting really simple and just saying, if you don't know anything about CS, take a week, right? And I know that's really hard to take a week, but
Yeah.
however that looks like, right? Take those
Yeah.
hours, learn. There's
Yeah.
tons, especially in CS, there's tons of free stuff everywhere.
Yes. Yes.
But and then take what you're learning and then use that and start networking with people. Start getting
True.
buy-in from other people that you actually understand the concepts that you're learning correctly. And people, if you have learned this incorrectly and you can articulate that well, you will start building in a tremendous value in these networks because people are going to now know who you are
True.
because you know CS, even though you're
Yeah.
not in the space, and there's so many people who are doing that well that are now transitioning into CS
Yes.
because they took the
Yes.
time to do that research first. So
True.
it's not necessarily my own original advice, but Gary Vee has a lot of those really
Of course.
really cool things like that, and it's one that I highly recommend, that if you can do that, taking time to
Amazing.
do that research first, and then networking, right? Those are in that order. Do it in that order.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you so much, Jeremy. Of course, I loved the entire episode that I just recorded with you. Thank you so much for joining us, and I really wish that you had fun time too with me along.
Yeah, no, it was great, and maybe next time I'll get some kid cameos for this. But I appreciate you having me, and stay safe, and look
You too.
forward to catching up with you soon.
Sure, 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 Jeremy. You also stay safe and take care of yourself.
Yeah. All right. Bye now.
Bye bye. I hope you enjoyed today's episode, and if yes, please spread the word. I would love to know your feedback, hence feel free to drop me a ping over LinkedIn. Stay tuned to many more interesting episodes. See you.